Hello friends and welcome to another episode of Ontario Permaculture. I'm Bryce Murph'Ariens. In this episode, I'm very excited to be talking to you about a very effective method for propagating plants, stool division, or separating plants at the roots. It's a beautiful Beltane day today. It's not especially warm, but it's a great day to talk about this sort of fertility, this great method for propagating your plants. This method I'm talking about today, I'll be using on a blackberry bush that I've had now for, I think this is its sixth, perhaps its seventh year. And hello, cat. Yes, a little bit of help here. So this plant has been a wonderful staple. It's a very effective blackberry plant. It puts on very, very large berries. It puts on a lot of them as well, and it has a very, very long late season. So one of the best things about this, of course, is it's a thornless variety, so you can actually have this in your garden and not be at a big risk of, getting spiked from it. And it's very easy to move about, to transplant and do this sort of thing. Because the plant itself is not aggressive like a lot of blackberry plants are. Good day to you, sir. So as you can see, there was a little bit of snow damage. This is one of the deepest areas of our food forest, and if you'll watch another video that we've just about put out called Managing Snow and Wind on Your Property Through Permaculture, you'll see that this spot here, it's actually many, many feet under snow. So this fence line, it's above the edge of this camera at this point, in the winter time, excuse me. Clearly, it's done a little bit of damage to the plants. So that's one of the first things I'll be doing. Excuse me, sir. Let's just have you hop out of the way. And first thing I'll do is trim this up. But you can see, or perhaps you can see, maybe you can't, I'm not sure. But this right here, it's got a lot of green wick to it. So I'll probably be able to dig this up as part of the root layering and separate this one out, and it'll become another plant somewhere else. So the big deal about stool layering is really building up a pile at the base of a plant that you expect to transplant out. And what this usually happens what this ideally happens with, is older plants that have been in your garden for, let's say, 4 to 5 years. You can do this technique with any, as far as I know, with any woody, perennial shrub or bush, so fruiting bushes especially, and essentially you just pile dirt at the base of the plant. And this causes the base of the plant to put on more roots. It causes individual stems to put roots a little further up the stems. It also encourages the plant to put more shoots out and to put more nodes. Hello, sir, again. So what this does in two things is it encourages the multiplication of the plant in the spot, but it also means that the roots that are grown in that spot are higher up the plant and will be like above the ground layer. So when I go to dig this up, which I will be doing before the end of this video, and you'll see, many of the stems will have roots halfway up, and the rest of it will be fairly easy to divide, so that I'll be able to take this and make, it looks like about 16 to 20 blackberry plants that I'll be able to transplant out. So this will really, really increase my yield of blackberries in the long run by giving me many more plants. It'll give me many more zones in which blackberries can be planted, and all from just having one plant that last year it was still very, very productive, but more or less I made it a little less productive this past year by putting all this stool layering mass on here. Now, what have I used? Now, we're very fortunate in our setup that we have horses. And horses, I truly do believe, are one of the reasons that Parisian food is so fine and so renowned to this day, because the horse manure produces an amazing fertility that just really, really is abundant for crops like perennial shrubs and bushes. And when you take horse poop and you put it directly on the base of a plant, I think this is where the term stool layering comes from.
Prove me wrong, kids. Prove me wrong.
Because you're essentially taking a big pile of stool and you're putting it at the base of the plant. And in doing this, it's as if the horse had come along himself and essentially placed this right there. And it gives a big boost of fertility, gives a big pile up of soil. And as that breaks down, that helps to stimulate the soil, stimulate the roots, and really get the whole process going, ready to transplant. So that's basically the whole description of the process. Everything from here on out is just visual. So how about you come along with me and we'll watch what happens from here.
We start by carefully digging around the base of the plant. And this right here is what we're looking for, the root crown of the plant. Continue digging around the base of the plant, being sure to give the roots a good wide berth. Many of them come out easily like this one did, some others will require a little bit more work. As you dig, you'll be rocking and pulling apart the various plants, using the stems to guide you. At all times, do your best to make sure that the main stems are kept intact. And as you separate individual plants off, put them aside and keep them ready for transplanting. I will most often heel in my plants in a small pot of dirt aside. Blackberry bushes having an especially large stem are fairly easy to differentiate and fairly easy to pull apart. More than anything, we want to see a good assembly of these hair roots on the plants. Sometimes, with a larger stemmed plant like blackberry here, it's a little bit difficult to pull the plants apart. Just keep with it, do a lot of shaking and wiggling, try to get the earth off where you can, and provided that there's hairy roots that you can see attached to the stem that you're dealing with, just keep pulling. The chances are good that even if you break the stems apart, it'll still be able to transplant. This one's a good example. Just that one wispy root hair is enough to ensure that that plant will transplant well. As you can see, I'm also pulling a lot of other plants out from the mix here, and occasionally removing broken stems where that helps the process. Ultimately, while I do want to transplant these blackberries out, I don't want to transplant the goutweed that's coming with them. So I'll keep pulling this out and make sure that it's just the blackberry plants themselves. I mean, just look at the roots on that. You can tell now I've worked my way through the majority of the plant into the heart of the bush. This particular root is so big, I'm going to have to saw it in half. Interestingly, most of that root mass is dead. The half that I cut off will just go into biochar. So I can see these are all separate root nodes, so I'm going to just give a very solid yank here. There we go. You can easily see here this will be readily made into two plants. We've got the hairy roots on both sides. I can simply split it right here, and this one plant will quickly become two. In this last section here, let's clean it up a little bit. You can see it's got some dead wood on here. That's not going to give it any problems at all. It's got a lot of good root mass. We're just going to put it right back in, right where we took it from. Cover it back over. It's fairly convenient that this stem is actually still entangled in the fence, so it sort of keeps itself exactly where it was before. Make sure there's no air around the roots. That's easy if you pack it down a little bit. And I noticed right at the end there just happened to be one more little root section over at the side here, so I pulled that up. And I will put it aside with the others. I'll trim down these stems, though you could definitely have done this first. This just makes them a little bit easier to handle. And here you can see my ready roots, all good to go. So on top of the obvious plants we've got here, there's also another benefit. These root sections, each of these has the potential to create its own plant when buried. Here's that doubled stem I showed you before. I basically take a very sharp pair of pruners and split it right between the stems, making sure that we've got the hairy roots on either side. And once they're split right through, we basically have two plants ready to go. You can see that a little closer here. I repeat this process for all of the remaining stems. Each time you do your best to follow the natural lines that occur in the plant and only cut where you absolutely have to, always ensuring we've got the hairy roots on both sides. Some shoots start off clean and ready to go like this one, though you might note those multiple shoots will make this an excellent plant for root layering next year. And here's that big root mass which I'm just about to saw off. An additional boon of this process is all of these root masses, and each of these, if I'm lucky, may start their own plant. And so altogether we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And all of those on top of the original. So here I take one to a new zone, simply put it in the soil like I did before, tamp it down, make sure there's no air around the roots. And water. Always be sure to thoroughly water your transplants for at least the first couple weeks. And here, the original bed now planted with 4 new blackberries along this fence, as well as the original. I have already added some more horse manure to the bottoms of these plants. It's an excellent water-retaining mulch and begins the process all over again. And all while adding fertility to the whole garden in general. The blackberries, part of a food forest here with apple, haskap, rhubarb, goutweed, comfrey, nodding onion, magenta spreen and borage, and bush cherry. And all for the love of the blackberry.
Thank you, friends, for coming on this permaculture adventure. If you enjoyed yourself, please like, share, and subscribe. I'd like to take a moment to give a really big thank you to all of our GoFundMe funders and all of our Patreon patrons. The financial contributions that you provide to this channel are truly helping make things better as we move along. I hope you've been seeing the improvements as we go. I hope you join us on our next permaculture adventure, and until then, grow well. All is perfect, whole and complete.
Hang on. You okay?
Everyone okay?
But it's still not saying that it's recording for the headset.
Might, well, no, it should be on. We'll check that. It is on the noise canceling level. It's all the way in.
Okay.
Thank you, friends, for joining me on this permaculture adventure. I'm so glad you came. If you can't laugh, I can't. Seriously. Okay. I know. I love you, darling. You're great. You're so good behind the lens. Okay, I need a minute.